Hi, folks. Now, it's no surprise to anyone that Democrats are constantly finding new ways to embarrass themselves, and this week they didn't disappoint because Kamala Harris has decided to step back into the limelight, not to lead, not to help anyone, but instead to hawk a brand new book on Rachel Maddow's show. A book so obviously ghostwritten, it might as well come with a translator for cackles and word salads. And speaking of sour grapes, enter Don Lemon, because nothing says bitter dressing quite like a lemon meltdown. He's throwing a fit because Christians dared to practice their faith at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk, who, by the way, was recently martyred, in case you didn't know.
Charlie Kirk stood for. He was a man of faith. And the reason that struck me so is because I got a text from a friend who said, I am a black woman. The person who babysits my child is a black woman from Jamaica.
What's your point?
And she says, Charlie Kirk was a person of faith.
Yeah, he was.
And I say to them, okay, so what does that mean, a person of faith? How does a person of faith act? How does a person who really believes in what God and the scriptures say, the true meaning of it, not the distorted meaning, how would they treat the least of these?
No, hold on, dude.
What I say now is that what happened in Arizona this weekend was not just a memorial. It was something else entirely. People will tell you that it is about grief. It was about grief, about honoring a man's life, about faith. And on the surface, maybe it looked like that. Tens of thousands gathered. The music swelled. I'm sure some of you saw it. I just saw some of the sound bites. There were prayers and tears and moments of silence. But if you stayed long enough for the little bit that I could stay. And then I said, you know what, I'm out. If you listen long enough and close enough, if you stayed long enough and you listen close enough, you could feel the ground shifting beneath you, because that wasn't just about a man who died. This was about a movement claiming divine permission to rule. Can I get a witness?
God, dude. There's just so much going on over here. I don't even know where to begin, folks. This man unironically sat there and tried to prophesy from his fake bully pulpit that he has a better understanding of faith than millions upon millions of believers, better than all the pastors who spoke at Charlie's ceremony, better than the Christian artists who've built their entire careers on their faith when most people wouldn't have dared to go that route years ago and performed at Charlie's ceremony. Don Lemon sits in judgment, declaring he knows the true meaning of the Bible. So tell us, Don, what exactly is the true meaning? What parts are you reading? Romans? Paul? Because Paul has plenty to say about everything, which is why churches like the Episcopal Church are so eager to rip those books out. If you're suddenly a biblical scholar, Mr. Sour Grapes, what translation are you reading, or are you secretly fluent in Greek? I want to know. And yet, here's the thing. Lemon never cites a single passage to back up his claims while lobbing admonishments at a moment that was genuinely bittersweet for the country. Yes, Charlie Kirk was taken too soon, but it was inspiring to see so many people gather to honor a man who impacted lives across the spectrum, who traveled the country to debate opponents, who gave them a platform when the internet trains us to stay in echo chambers. He did the opposite of what most people do. He went outside the comfort zone, and for daring to do that boldly, he was assassinated by someone who wanted to silence him. And why is Don's anger aimed at Charlie's faith and not at his murder? I haven't seen him condemn the assassination, but I've seen him attack Charlie's character, question his Christianity, and smear the people mourning him. It's so shameless. And I've noticed something as well. The staunchest critics of Charlie, of Christians, the loudest voices questioning Christ's features or nitpicking his skin complexion, none of them are believers. None. They're distractions sent to us by the enemy to pull us into debates that don't actually matter. And that's effectively what Don is doing here. We all know this. Anybody who's a believer knows it. They see it right through it.
Donald Trump stood on the stage like a man at the center of a prophecy. He called Charlie Kirk a martyr. Other politicians promised to carry out his mission. The crowd cheered as if the passing of the man had lit some sort of sacred fire. To me, this was not mourning. This was a mobilization. And here is where we have to tell the truth here. What we saw in that arena was not simply faith-finding public expression. It was religious nationalism on full display. That is the truth. That is my truth. This is my freedom of expression. This is my First Amendment right to be able to tell you the truth. This, from my point of view, this is what it is.
Look, Don Lemon has to understand that the vast majority of people do not give a flying fuck about his point of view. Outside of people like me who can milk him for content, nobody cares, bro. Not a single person. Sure, people in his bubble probably care, but outside of that, I do not see a single conservative lying awake at night worrying, oh my God, what does Don Lemon think? And as for this memorial being a religious nationalist rally, what did Don Lemon expect? Charlie Kirk was in politics. He was a Christian. He helped elect Donald Trump. He was close friends with the president. He played a role in getting J.D. Vance into the VP slot. He had intimate connections with people in the Trump administration, built one of the most successful conservative political organizations in the country, and spent years traveling coast to coast, proselytizing conservative and Christian values. You really expect there not to be a political backdrop? That's like diving into the ocean and being shocked to find fish swimming around. It's absurd. The moral indignation, the outrage Don is trying to wring out of this so he has something to yell about, it's not even there. It's so blatantly obvious. And it just makes him look petty. It makes him look like a hater. He's just mad. And honestly, it's sad. I read the comments, I see the bitterness, and I've even interacted with some of these people online. The only thing I can say is I'm praying for their soul because you look troubled. You look hurt. You look lost. You look like the trauma in your life has never healed. And the truth is, the only way through it is God. And we all know it deep down. Even they know. But they cling to this idea that they can only rely on themselves, that they have to wall off their hearts. The beauty of God is that He's there waiting good and ready. The moment you open yourself to Him, He'll pull you right out of the mud. That's the reality Don Lemon can't process because it's not politics that terrifies him. It's actually faith. And speaking of pure demonic evil, one of the gubernatorial candidates out of New Jersey is advocating for transing kids. Yeah, folks.
Should parents have the right to opt their kids out of LGBTQ-related content in the same way that right now they can be removed from sex ed and health curriculum classes?
Yes.
Look, I believe that parents have the right to oversee their children's education. I would push in LGBTQ education into our schools. Parents have a right to opt out of a lot of things, but this is not an area where they should be opting out because this is an area of understanding the background of people throughout our nation. And right now we see, for example, at the Naval Academy, an erasure of history.
I am begging conservatives to start running for every office, no matter your experience, no matter your fear, because if we leave the future of this country in the hands of Democrats like Mikey Sherrill, there won't be a country left in 2 generations. Think about what she's openly saying here. Parents can opt their kids out of health class, but not out of state-mandated gay sex instruction. That's not about health or safety or preventing disease. It's about forcing kids into an ideology. Sexual preference, elective sexual preferences, lifestyle, who you sleep with, those are elective choices, not core subjects for strangers to lecture children on. And the idea that schools should cut parents out of that conversation so activist teachers can fill the void is just simply outrageous. If you want someone talking to kids about sex, it better be a designated professional with the most rigorous background checks on record, renewed constantly every month to ensure they're not perverts or predators. And even then, the job is to discuss basics. Safe sex, STDs, procreation, not to indoctrinate kids into a political identity movement. That's the line. Because at the end of the day, gay sex education, as they frame it, isn't about teaching facts. It's about normalizing an ideology. Who you sleep with is not a subject for celebration in a classroom, and it sure as hell isn't a substitute for education. If this is the platform Democrats are running on, New Jersey voters need to ask themselves, is this who you want deciding what your kids are taught behind closed doors while keeping you locked out that door? Anyway, speaking of retards, here's Kamala Harris. She's back, and she's being good old Kamala.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear with you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. It wasn't about, so it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but.
Oh, no, really?
We had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high. And I think America is and would be ready for that.
Just not now.
But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious, I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was, but that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
So there you have it, folks. Democrats want to trans and gay your kids, then turn around and say being gay is too much of a liability to even have them on the ticket. That's the Democrat playbook in plain view, folks. Keep your kids away from Democrats, especially your young men, because they will try to neuter them. This is about control, okay? Because if you weaken men, you weaken the family, you weaken the country. That's why they push for low testosterone, effeminate. That's why Democrats love low testosterone, effeminate men who will just sit back, acquiesce, and let women run the show. And that's why feminism embraces gay men so fiercely, even though the irony is most gay men despise women. Not all, of course, but I would say the majority. And if you've ever heard them in private, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of the most vicious anti-woman rhetoric I've ever heard has come from gay men born out of years of rejection, resentment, and in some cases, rivalry. Many see women as competition for the men they want. Many fantasize about turning straight men. And underneath it all is a bitterness that white liberal women in particular seem blind to as they treat gay men as the last bastion of freedom. It's an adversarial, almost parasitic energy that women think they thrive in. But men see through it because men know gay men hate women more than anyone wants to admit. There might not be a study on it, but if there were, the numbers would prove my point. And the bigger picture here is clear, folks. The left exploits this dynamic not out of compassion, but because it weakens men. It weakens straight men specifically. It undoes the family unit. It destabilizes culture, and it consolidates Democrat control over your life.
Which is, we've also now in an executive order today we've got the president describing Antifa, the anti-fascist, it's not even really a movement, the anti-fascist tactics of a portion of the protest movement as a domestic terrorist organization. What's your reaction to those things? What do you think the appropriate response is to things like that?
He's right.
Well, in normal times, we should and could expect that our courts would step in to declare the legality or illegality of what the president is doing because, Civics 101, we all know. We designed our democracy with the three co-equal branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and the courts.
We've also now in an executive order today.
Antifa is a terrorist organization. It's funded by people like George Soros and his organization, Open Society, and anybody who says otherwise is just gaslighting you and treating you like you're stupid. We've all seen what Antifa has done to cities like Seattle, Portland, and even Los Angeles, smashing businesses, terrorizing communities, and attacking people for daring to disagree with the far left. These folks don't have jobs. They don't have purpose. This is what they do, and yes, they get paid to do it. And the name anti-fascist is straight out of Orwell. They're not fighting fascism, they're enforcing it. If Antifa has been around for 15 or 20 years, where are the fascists they supposedly stopped? Funny how they only seem to rise up during Republican administrations, then vanish into thin air the moment Democrats are back in power. It's almost like someone turns the funding switch off and redirects the chaos elsewhere. The truth is, Democrats need Antifa because it creates permanent crises, lowering the quality of life, destabilizing society, and keeping people desperate. That's stage 4 of the Leninist playbook. Drive a nation to the edge so radicals can seize control. So no, Antifa isn't actually Antifa. They're not anti-fascists. They're pro-Tifa. They're pro-chaos. They're pro-control. They're the fa. And so the question becomes, how much longer will we allow ourselves to be told that lies are truth and chaos is order? How many times will we watch the same Democrat script play out, the same media figures sneering, the same Democrat politicians twisting language before we finally admit the game is rigged? These aren't just passing stories, folks. They're signals of a culture being reshaped in real time, often against your instincts and your better judgment. So ask yourself, who benefits when faith is mocked, when parents are sidelined, when when violence is rebranded as virtue, and more importantly, who loses? If you don't start questioning the narratives handed down to you, you already know the answer. So you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.